Hello everybody, welcome into the FastTrack Sim Racing Cup Series, live from Homestead, Miami Speedway, getting ready for the second to last race before the championship four just after tonight. Next week we're going to head to Martinsville, the paperclip, following it off with Phoenix. So tonight's going to be one of the last opportunities for these guys in the round 8 to try to lock themselves in. We already saw Joshua Watson get the job done last week at Vegas. Question's going to be who can get it done here tonight. If you're just tuning in, appreciate you being here. You are watching Austin Green on Ghost Racing Network. Heading right down trackside, let's get started with your starting grid here tonight. It's going to be Brandon Bikey, one of the rookies, starting on pole here at this 1.5 miles tonight. Sean Kaltenbach to his outside in second. Joshua Watson, again, last week's winner, locked himself into the championship four. He will start third with Jeff Marble to his outside. And fourth, it's going to be Austin Fitzgerald and Bill Benedict making up row number 3. Tyler Marble back in 7th. Adrian Watson 8th. It's going to be Brian Conklin in 9th with Cody Colley rounding out your top 10. Danny Gutierrez will start from 11th. Andrew Nieder back in 12th. Matthew Cox in 13th with Jeff Shutt in 14th. Scott Glasso in 15th. Kyle Oakley in 16th. Alan Pajari back in 17th with Cody Richardson in 18th. Back in 19th, it's going to be Jeffrey Souza and Andrew Kotska, another one of the Mad Sim Racing drivers, rounding out your top 20. Richard Elliott, new rig, good to see him back here tonight. He'll start 21st. Thomas O'Hara to his outside in 22nd. Going to be Dave Sanders and Tracy Powers making up row 12. Ryan Haynes and Brett Spott in row 14. And excuse me, I actually got that wrong. I meant to say Johnny McCulchuk and Cody Matthews in row 13. And then it's Ryan Haynes and Brett Spott back in row 14. Glenn Grigsby in 29th. Andrew Russo rounding out your top 30. Jared Bundy in 31st with Matthew Gearinger 32nd. And Christopher Hall rounding out the field in 33rd. Race info here tonight. Homestead, 1.5 miles in length. Progressive banking is going to make this race very interesting. A lot of lanes. These guys going to be very racy on these restarts. Track temp 103. It's the Homestead 200. 134 laps, going to be our race distance here tonight. Into the restart zone for the first time, we're racing in Miami. Lap 1 is going to go to the 13 of Brandon Bikey. You saw him already slip up through turns 3 and 4. He's already found his way to the top line. Did not take long, but made a little bit of a mistake. Got into the outside wall. Seems like the 13 car, though, it's not going to suffer too much damage. And I mean, we're going to be seeing these guys tag the wall quite a bit here tonight. Seems to be a trend at Homestead. Again, we talked about the progressive banking. So you're going to be able to carry a lot more momentum on the top line. However, I still think that you can make that bottom roll and maybe be the favorite lane here for the first couple laps on fresh tires, but not the case up front. Brandon Bikey has taken the lead by controlling that outside, and Joshua Watson was able to settle down into second. Austin Fitzgerald just behind him in third. Sean Kaltenbach in fourth, and Jeff Marble rounding out your top 5. But let's remind you real quick of the guys that are going to be fighting to make up those final 4 spots, and actually I should say final 3 because we know that Joshua Watson already has punched his ticket. But looking at some of the others in the field here tonight, still looking to get in: Austin Fitzgerald, Jeff Marble, Tyler Marble, Danny Gutierrez, Brian Conklin, Cody Richardson, and Andrew Kotska, the remaining 7. And of those 7, going to see 3 more. And potentially one of them also locked themselves into Homestead here tonight. And then, of course, we go to Martinsville next week. And now we're seeing a little bit of a switch up here for Brandon Bikey as he has actually moved his way down to the bottom line on the track now. And look at the fuel window here tonight. Gonna have to assume it's probably somewhere close to what we had at Vegas last week, although there is a lot more off throttle time here at Homestead, so they might be able to go just a couple more laps. And so as Brandon Bikey stays on the bottom, looks like Watson is following a pretty similar line right now. I think you're going to see that stay the case for the 01. I think he's saving just a little bit of tire right now, and you hear it. He is trying to make sure that he scrubs off as minimal of that right front as possible. Austin Fitzgerald just behind. He's starting to slowly work his way up the track. And I think as the run goes on, again, everybody's going to start to migrate up to the top line until eventually they run out of real estate. And that's where you see those big, long black streaks on the wall. That is paint from the cars that have been scraping along them. And a lot of guys like Homestead for the reason of ripping the wall. I know a couple of the Marbles, I believe, liked it. And it was, I know Tyler, liked it. And then I think it was Cody Richardson, might have been one of the other guys that said Homestead's one of their favorite tracks that we head to on the season. And as we do take a ride on board with Jeff Marble, one of the guys carrying one of the driver cams for us here tonight as well. And there is a look at Jeff, currently sitting in that 15th position, or excuse me, in the 15 car, but currently sitting up inside the top 10. In fact, right now in the top 5, currently rounding out that 5th position. Kaltenbach just in front of him. All these guys in your top 5 still on the bottom. Interestingly enough, it's going to see how long that lasts before some of these guys start moving up. Now, just in front of Jeff, taking a look now at Tyler Marble, another one of our guys carrying an onboard camera for us here tonight. Now, if we do a little bit of a flashback, and you remember here, Tyler Marble with a major technical malfunction last week, and we had gotten word post-race that it was actually something to do with his pedals, that they all just kind of got stuck down the back straightaway after maybe a little bit of a frustration with them sticking beforehand. And unfortunately, that ended the night for the 48 and put him in a position that probably didn't want to be in. His chances were looking, I would say, all but locked up that he would be a guy in the Final Four, but certainly played a bit of a setback for the 48. And he's going to try to bounce back here tonight. Plenty of laps and a good run early. Tell you what, that 48 throughout the season, it seems like when he's had speed early, he's been able to translate that to speed late. And speaking of speed early, Cody Richardson right now still looking for a little bit more as he sits in 14th. We talked about his teammate Andrew Kotska back in 20th. Both of the Mad Sim Racing drivers looking to see if they can make an appearance in the Final Four. One of the few remaining teams to still have a shot at doing just that. But Brandon Bikey, how about the job this young man is doing up here at the front already? And when I say young man, I refer to it as he's a rookie. Certainly don't mean it any other way than that. Joshua Watson, though, just behind him, one of the veterans. Sean Kaltenbach, who sits third. These three have kind of signified out. Not too much action between them, but you saw Jeff Marble had been trailing on the back bumper of Sean Kaltenbach for a little bit. Kaltenbach found his way around Austin Fitzgerald, so now Jeff going to follow in suit just a couple laps later as he works around the inside line, and he is now going to also get around the number 74 machine. So there's the lookout back as they dive down into turn 1. You see Jeff taking a much bigger of an arced approach, and you're going to have to go even farther back to find the first guy that's really ripping the top, and that is Bill Benedict in the 90 machine. Brian Conklin to his inside, but let's show you kind of difference here in the two lines. Conklin's going to dive it all the way down to the bottom. By the way, Conklin, another one of the playoff drivers in the field. He gets clear here for the moment. Now, right now, he doesn't have to worry about racing this 92 hard, so he's not going to take it. But you see as Bill chooses to stay up top. That's where, as this run wears down, you see he does close on to the back bumper of the 37. So he's able to get a little bit more momentum by running up top, but definitely doesn't seem to be the favored lane right now. Eventually, everybody, though, running in each other's dirty air on the bottom. Tires just going to get too worn out for everybody to continue running down there. But it is still Brandon Bikey leading the way, and I'll tell you what, we had some good-looking camera angles here tonight, but some of them think the tower's getting in the way of, so we're going to switch to the scroll bar here for just a little bit. And as we go back, now battle heating up between Tyler Marble and Austin Fitzgerald, the battle for 5th. We'll see if Danny Gutierrez chooses to go to the inside here and follow the 48. Got to wonder if Fitzgerald's maybe just trying to save a little bit of tire right now, or if he's struggling. Not exactly sure. Up front, though, at Vegas last week, we kind of saw, I would say, a similar battle played out between your second and third place car. Sean Kaltenbach and Joshua Watson, two of the fastest guys of the night. Kaltenbach said after the race, too, he knew he fired off good, but it was a long run where Joshua Watson just made sure that he saved a little bit of more tire. And man, oh man, did it pay off at the end of the run. And take a look there, Joshua Watson holding a nice steady line. We saw a pretty cool burnout from the JBR racing driver last week. Took the wheel off the motor, just put the pedal to the floor. Going further on back towards the back of the pack right now, Jared Bundy did not make it out on track. He's being scored in 33rd. Must have had some sort of technical issue. But as we take a look at the track map, you see the field currently separated by about a back stretch, or a front stretch, if you will. And so still not quite half a track. Going on back to 32nd, though. There's a look at Richard Elliott, another one of our drivers that was carrying an onboard camera for us here tonight. And I wonder if he had some issues as well, as it looks like he is checked out. But talked about it earlier, good to see, in the pre-race rather, good to see Richard Elliott back on track here tonight. They've been spent the last couple weeks building the new rig. And I'll tell you what, I got a little bit of a look at that thing from the inside through the driver cam, that is. And man, that is a sweet looking rig that Richard Elliott's got set up. It's going to take some getting used to. I hear it from a lot of guys. You think you hop into a new rig, you're going to go up and win the race, but not the case. Guys have to get used to it. And Richard Elliott still working out some of the kinks as he sits 32nd. Christopher Hall back in 31st, up 2 positions from where he started. There's Glenn Grigsby in 30th. Cody Matthews just in front of him in 29th. Andrew Russo in the 88th, back in 28th. There's Brett Spott in the 35 machine. He sits 27th. Matthew Gearinger just in front of him in 36th. And that's a good-looking scheme here tonight. Got the Hoonigan scheme for Matthew Gearinger. Johnny McCulchuk in front of him, currently sitting in 25th. Not too bad of a run here early for Johnny. Looking to pick up some speed. Currently no gain or loss from where he started this race at. The driver, the 72, his teammate Jeff Shutt. Gonna have to look pretty far up to find Jeff, currently running in the top 10. Johnny going to continue to make some adjustments, especially under this first pit stop. And I think tonight's going to be one of the nights where maybe we see a lot more adjustments through these stops than we normally see. Again, when it's open setups, you can change just about anything you want on the car pre-race, and you can certainly make a lot more in-race adjustments than you can when it's fixed. Dave Sanders in the 77 has Ryan Haynes just in front of him in the 23. Ryan Haynes, another one of the drivers carrying an onboard camera for us here tonight. The BMP Racing driver already up 4 positions from where he started. Tracy Powers just in front of him. Thomas O'Hara in 21st. Matthew Cox in 20th. And it's going to be Kyle Oakley up in 19th. Taking a look back here, go up a little bit farther. Kyle Oakley rocking the Ghost Racing Network merch tonight in the onboard cam. And it's so interesting to me how we see all these guys run different wheels. And I think Kyle Oakley has one of the bigger wheels that we see. Joshua Watson may have a similar one. I think it might be a Fanatec. Nonetheless, whatever it is, you can see he's got his arms pretty spread out. And that's going to help him just make those slight adjustments with the steering as he's going through a corner. If you have a smaller wheel, you can't quite be as snappy with the wheel as you can with a bigger wheel. Andrew Kotska running just in front in 18th. He is currently your farthest back. I should say your lowest running playoff driver, if you will. Jeffrey Souza in 17th. Alan Pajari in 16th. There's Andrew Neidhart in 15th. Cody Richardson, the other Mad Sim Racing driver in the playoffs tonight, in 14th. Cody Colley in 13th. Scott Glasso in 12th. Bill Benedict still running the wall, and it's working pretty well for him. You see, as it stands, currently sitting in that 11th position. Jeff Shutt just in front of him in the pink and blue 27 Capital Auto Group paint scheme. Adrian Watts up in 8th. Tyler Marble in 7th. Jeff Marble in 6th. But, man, what about the Gagla cars we got? I would say probably about 6th through 15th right here. Taking a look from the blimp cam. Here's the battle right now between teammates. Jeff able to get around Tyler. I'm thinking that means that Jeff maybe did a little bit of a better job saving Tyler. Tyler finds himself on the bottom, and I think he's starting to struggle as you see him starting to slowly fade out back the wrong direction. We'll see if this 48 machine can get things corrected and turn around pretty quick. Adrian Watts following the 15, gives him a little tandem draft down the front stretch right there. And don't forget, last week at Vegas, we did see Adrian Watts bring home a second-place finish. Thought for a little while there he was going to have a chance of maybe beating his teammate in his own game, but we've heard so many of the guys on JBR E-Racing say it all season. They say Joshua Watson's the master, and they're all just out there learning from him. Austin Fitzgerald in 5th, and Austin one of the onboard camps tonight. Unfortunately, though, looks like we got him sideways, so we don't get to see the normal view, but there you go. Austin Fitzgerald doing a little shifting with his sequential. Danny Gutierrez in front of him. One of the drivers outside looking in for the round of 8 right now. Sean Kaltenbach in 3rd. Joshua Watson in 2nd. And Brandon Bikey still leads the way here as we have now completed 21 of 134 laps. But you do see Joshua Watson catching up now to the back bumper of that 13 machine as they approach about 180 miles an hour down into the turns. So we'll see, does Brandon Bikey make any adjustment? Neither of these two have gone back up to the wall. In fact, it almost played a little bit of an inversion on the way I thought this race would go. We saw Bikey run the top line for the first few laps. It was enough to hold off Joshua Watson, and once he got clear, he actually went back to run in the bottom. And remember here, the closer that Joshua Watson gets, the harder it's going to be for him to continue to close up on the 13 as he gets in that dirty air. Knocking her on the top, but you heard him make some contact again. These guys do kind of try to, I would say, shift their entry into the corner later and later, even if they're not moving up to the top. You want to get that big arc down to the apex. If you enter in too early, you're going to scrub off the right front really, really fast. But there you go. You see Joshua Watson. He's going to duck out a lane higher. Brandon Bikey in the lower portion just below that first seam. Joshua Watson between that first seam and the second seam, and it's working really well for Watson. He's going to close up, looking for a move here down the backstretch. There goes the 0-1 to the inside of the rookie. Watson trying to get clear here. I thought maybe he would slide it in, but he knows But he's got plenty to work with here. His caution's out. Cody Richardson, one of the playoff drivers with issues here. As a couple guys with issues, the 46 has come to a halt on the back straightaway. And you got to wonder now how much damage has been done. This could be major playoff implications depending on the answer to that question. As he gets back rolling, back left looks like there's a little damage. In fact, the back in general looks like it's banged up a little bit. Front looks to be pretty clean. Same with the left and right side. So yeah, it looks like most of his damage is restricted to the back bumper region. But what happens here for Cody Richardson? Let's go back and see if we can't figure it out. This starts on the back straightaway here. And, you know, normally this is about the time of the run where we would say everything got spread out. Wasn't the case up here. These guys had still been going at it. And there you go. You see 3 wide coming off the turn. And it looks like, ooh, Cody just coming up. Not sure if Cody maybe didn't realize that they were 3 wide. And he gets into the 37 of Brian Conklin, who's another playoff driver. They both get up into Andrew Niedert, who actually probably cushions the blow that the 37 was going to take to the wall. And then, man, double trouble for Mad Sim Racing as you saw Andrew Kotska plow into the back of his teammate trying to miss it. They go for a slide. Kyle Oakley's able to dodge. Ooh, and on the bottom, the 25 of Tracy Powers tags Brian Conklin. That is more damage that the 37 did not need. Let's go back and take a couple different angles of this here. Again, I want to actually take one more view from the chopper cam. I think Cody just maybe didn't realize that they were 3 wide unless the car shut up, but looked like he had pretty good control. Again, does get a little tight off the corner. You see Conklin's above the seam, and yeah, just Cody coming up. At the end, maybe Brian just ever so slightly starts to come down. And again, I don't think it was anything egregious by Cody, just maybe didn't think they were 3 wide or the car started to get tight on him. Either way, once he comes up, him and the 37 make contact. The wreck's on from there. There's the initial view for Cody, and then Conklin, bam, big damage to the left side. And yeah, he makes even more contact with the inside wall. If that broke a toe link for Brian Conklin, then man, that could potentially end his chances of going to fight for a championship 4. Taking a look now from the TV static cam. Back this up for you. You hear the contact in the background, and there's the result. Cody Richardson in the middle of the track. Tell you what, that much smoke. Really, really lucky that nobody tagged the 46. Again, hats off to everybody for doing a nice job being able to miss it. And Brian, man, heavy damage for Tracy Powers as well. Looks like he may have broke some suspension. It's ultimately bringing out your first caution of the night. Let's take one more look here from the gearbox of Cody Richardson. Watch his teammate here, Andrew Kotz. You're going to see plowing. He's going to have just nowhere to go. This caution actually came out a little bit late for this one, but there you go. And, man, you know that's going to get some front-end damage to Kotska. So I'll tell you what, out of that wreck, which collected 4 cars total, 3 of them were some of the guys still left in the round of 8. Andrew Kotska, Cody Richardson, and Brian Conklin. Again, we'll try to see if we can get a look at just how bad the damage is. You see Cody back out on track, and again, he didn't get any damage in the front of his car, so kind of figured he would be okay. So it looks like we already got the one to go signal. Man, that was a quick caution. As Brandon Bikey still being scored as your current leader, Joshua Watson in 2nd. Danny Gutierrez 3rd, Sean Kaltenbach back in 4th, Austin Fitzgerald 5th, Tyler Marble 6th, Adrian Watson 7th, Jeff Marble 8th, Bill Benedict in 9th, and Jeff Schutt rounding out your top 10. All right, here we go. Just as Watson was getting ready to make the move is when the caution flew. Everybody's got some fresh tires, and we're ready to get back to racing. Green flag is back in the air, 27 laps complete. And remember, it took Joshua Watson quite some time to work on and eventually reel in the 13. We'll see if he decides to race him a little bit harder this time, leaning heavily on the door of Brandon Bikey down into turn 1 and 2, and he is going to have the preferred lane on exit here. Joshua Watson, a little bit of a flinch there. He saw the 13 starting to come up. Kaltenbach, does he give a push here to the 13, or does he maybe try to split him 3 wide? No move there. Sean's just going to stay patient further out back. Bill Benedict trying to make the top line work. He gets right up by the outside wall. Danny Gutierrez slips up a little bit. Tyler Marble has to bail out of the throttle. That allows Austin Fitzgerald to draw even. And now off of turn number 4, Watson was able to switch over to the inside. And Brandon was able to hold him off on the top last run. We'll see if Watson maybe tries the infamous slide job that we see at tracks such as Miami. And he's going to have to send it into a corner, and as soon as he gets clear, he'll start driving up the track. Yellow flag is back in the air. There's trouble further back here. Looking for exactly who it is involved in this one. Tracy Powers looks slow, but don't believe that was the cause of the caution. Still not exactly sure. Ooh, Brett Spod, the 35. Pretty far behind the pack, and there is damage. So that might give some implications on to who is actually involved in this caution. Just over a lap and a half in from the restart. Yeah, he does. He's got some right front, left front damage. Let's take a look what happens here. So this is going to be off of turn 2. Similar place to where we saw the first wreck here tonight. And see if we can get a better look here from TV1. Certainly it's going to start with some contact. You see, ooh, not sure if there's contact between the 88 and the 35 first right there. The 88, of course, being Andrew Russo, and then the 35 of Brett Spod. But once he gets turned around, that's pretty heavy contact into the inside wall. Here's the look from the chopper view. That's Thomas O'Hara on his inside. And, ooh, you see the 35 coming up, and he's loose. Yeah, I'll tell you what, Brett Spod, he got really, really loose on exit of the corner here, and he's trying to catch it. Doing a pretty good job, but unfortunately, the 88 of Andrew Russo is just going to run up on the back of him, not going to be able to check up in time and make some contact with the right rear. That sends Brett Spod down into Thomas O'Hara. Thomas O'Hara gets shot to the inside. We'll take a look. Actually, the 07 was able to save. You see it from that view. Fortunately for the 35, not so lucky. It looks like Cody Matthews also gets tangled up in this one. And again, 35 was able to stay on the outside wall before he rolls down. Once everybody gets clear, does a little J-turn action, and he will have to take it to the pits, get everything fixed up. I want to actually go on the onboard cam here for Brett Spod. I mean, you see him get loose. Watch his hands and listen to the throttle. You see at this point, it never slipped out of his control, I'll say that. So, you know, unfortunately for Brett right there, if Andrew's able to stay off of him just a little longer, I think he 100% catches this, but just didn't get the chance to. And in the defense of Andrew Russo, not sure exactly what's going to happen. Maybe thought the 35 was going to spin, tried to shoot around the outside. Not sure, but just didn't quite work out for either of the guys in that scenario. And yeah, pretty heavy damage, not only to the front end, but you see the secondary impact there as he backs it in. And that contact with Russo and Cody Matthews, I don't think that's going to affect either of those two guys too bad. So as we go back live, we'll get ready to line up. Looks like we already got the one to go signal again. I'll tell you what. No, we did not. I take it back. I was getting ready to say the pace laps certainly go by pretty fast here at Homestead. But up front, it is still Brandon Bikey. Brandon Bikey currently leading the way. Sorry, got caught up reading the chat for just a moment. And back here in second, Joshua Watson running the outside. Sean Kaltenbach back in third. Danny Gutierrez in fourth with Tyler Marble fifth. Austin Fitzgerald back in sixth. Jeff Marble seventh. Adrian Watson eighth. Bill Benedict again. One of the non-playoff drivers is doing a really nice job up here, sitting inside the top 10. And Jeff Shutt rounding out your top 10. Looks like we have some people hopping in the chat. Chris Davis says, let's go Brandon Bikey. I believe it's Regine Huddleston says, happy early Halloween. John says, Jaron is the best in the business. I certainly appreciate that, guys. Allows a 180 speed. That is flying. You are not kidding. Let's go JGR. Anybody knows the Homestead is a restrictor plate track. And I'll tell you what, Regine, if I'm saying it right, if I'm not, I apologize. But nonetheless, glad to see you guys out here chatting. You don't get too active of an audience too often. Certainly appreciate everybody tuning in here tonight. And so we should get the one to go signal this time. And sure enough, we do. Joshua Watson lining up on the outside again. I'm not sure. I was going to say, I'm not 100% sure if these guys do get lane choice. I would almost think that that outside line might be preferred on the restarts. And we saw Watson was able to hold even for the first couple laps of the last restart. Now, this time around, it's going to be a little different. It's going to be a little interesting. I think Bikey maybe took a few notes. He's learning. And again, he might not be a playoff driver, but a win is a win no matter how you look at it. And Danny Gutierrez being up here, now the second highest running playoff driver on that outside line. He really needs good points tonight. And we will tell you why in just a moment. Going back towards the front. Actually, I should say, let's go back to the back here. Taking a look at some of those cars that got damaged. Remember, no fast repairs in the FastTrack Sim Racing Cup Series. So these guys, when they get damaged, it's get the hammer out, clean up as much of it as you can. But the bad news, I think, for any Brian Conklin fans or Team Marble iRacing fans is this right here is looking like their chances of bringing all three drivers into the Final Four is going to be all but gone after tonight. Brian Conklin going to need a miracle at Martinsville. But hey, we saw it. with Ross Chastain in real life, so you can't count anything out, but we'll see what Conklin can do. Back up front, green flag is in the air. 33 laps completed, Homestead. Good start for Bikey. He's going to dive down to the inside. If he could find a way to get clear this 0-1 before they get out of turn 2, I think it'd be his best friend. And you see this time he's going to be able to do so as he gets up on the gas a little bit sooner. Watson thinking about taking a look to the inside. That's exactly what the 0-1's going to do. Trying to get a little side draft as they dive down into turn 3. Watson not going to push the issue too hard. Going to try to take his time as he tries to work this move around Brandon Bikey. Behind, they're still racing hard for second and third as Tyler Marble draws even with the 08 of Danny Gutierrez. Into turn number 1, Joshua Watson. You know he'll stay on the bottom here for a couple laps, but at a certain point, if you're Brandon Bikey, you got to get clear and try to start taking away the air from this 0-1. Now, again, we saw Joshua try to save some tire through the first run, had a couple of cautions. Haven't had a chance to get another long stint just yet. So we'll see if he changes his approach as we go a little bit further back. A lot of hard racing here between Kyle Oakley and Jeffrey Souza. Souza on the inside, Kyle Oakley on the outside. And I feel like through this restart, we actually saw a couple more drivers working their way to the top. There's Kyle Oakley in the 17. In fact, take a quick peek at how he's looking in the driver cam right now. Still looking pretty calm and collected. Up 2 now from where he started as he has broken into the top 15, looking for more. Ryan Haynes, Cody Colley looking to the inside. Oh, we saw one shoot off track out back right there. Couldn't tell who it was. And that is the 0-2 of Richard Elliott. Did he save it? I think he may have saved it, bearing no damage on the front end, that is. And he did. Are you kidding me? Let's go back and take a look at this one. For Richard Elliott, out of the corner of my eye there, caught the bright purple car. No way he makes this save. Coming off of turn number 2. Car just starts to get loose on him, comes around. And now it's pointed towards that inside wall. And oh my goodness. I mean, he had to have less than feet right there between him and that inside wall. I don't know how he found a way to miss that. Let's take a ride on board. And he's got to make a choice here. And we'll break that down. Here you go, coming off turn 2. Once the car starts to come around, at this point, it's headed towards the inside wall. And man, you see just how quick it comes up here at Homestead. Almost similar to a bigger Dover where there's just usually not many places to hide if you spin out. But Richard Elliott with a heck of a save. Looks like Glenn Grigsby also may have had some trouble. This was right off the get-go on the initial restart. And Glenn on the inside of a couple cars here. And oh, he gets doored. Didn't even see this initially. And does he hit the inside wall? Slight contact with the rear. But let's watch this. He was racing alongside Andrew Russo. And is Grigsby going to slip up here? Does Russo get loose? Oh, no, Russo gets loose. Just gets down into the 64. Did not draw the caution, unfortunately for Glenn. Don't think the damage was too bad either. Brandon Bikey up, leading the way still. Joshua Watson still making a couple charges, but just cannot find a way around that 13. Got to be a little frustrating right now for the driver with the most wins on the season, well over 10. And back here, Adrian Watts rolling the middle line. Alan Pajari in the middle. Austin Fitzgerald on the bottom. This is giving you that perspective of just how many different lines these guys can run at Homestead. And restarts, we see the most variation as the run goes on. Things start to narrow down just a little bit. And as we go back up front, we need to remind everybody here of what the playoff picture is looking like. As well, of course, we're going to head to Martinsville next week for the last race before the championship. But, of course, this race, I feel like a lot of guys thinking it's the last race where there's a lot more things that you can predict. Martinsville kind of a wild card in its own sense. But here we go, how it's looking coming into tonight after Las Vegas. Joshua Watson, of course, got himself locked in with the win last week. Fitzgerald sitting in second. Jeff Marble in third. And right now, initially thought the way the points were going to look, Danny Gutierrez was going to be on the outside looking in, but it's the opposite. Danny is currently one spot to the good. That is not a lot of wiggle room, though, as you see Brian Conklin, who we talked about, currently off track and looks like he's going to end his night early. He was right on the bubble, so now this is going to hurt him significantly in points. I would say it's going to be almost a must-win for the 37 machine next week, Going on back, though, to Cody Richardson. He currently sits 6 points out. There's a chance that he could point his way in, but I know he would like to get a win, and right now, as it stands, currently finds himself back in the 16th spot, so we'll see, but definitely not quite the speed right now as he got some damage from that first wreck that brought out the caution. And then Tyler Marble 7 points out just behind Cody Richardson. Andrew Kotska, the last man still left in the playoffs, 15 down. And as he runs right now, another guy that looks like maybe going to come down to a must win. But everybody being within 15, there's certainly a possibility of pointing your way, and depending on how tonight's race goes and then the way next week's race is going to go. And I think next week's going to be all about survival. If you find yourself as a playoff driver at the end of that race, there's a pretty good chance you are going to be one of the final 4 going to Homestead. And back up front, Sean Kaltenbach has found some speed in that number 2 machine. Chris Davis predicted a little bit right here. He said Brandon and Sean Kaltenbach fixing to take off. And I do believe those two, even though you see the BMP Racing logo on the side of Brandon Bikey, not 100% sure. I had him marked as a BMP Racing driver, but I think that he might actually be one of the Team Watson Racing drivers, or at least use one of the Team Watson Racing setups. And so Tyler Marble back in 6th, 1 spot out of the top 5. Alan Pajari up 10 from where he started, currently sitting in 7th. And Joshua Watson falling back to 3rd. Let me tell you something. This is by design. I'm telling you that 01. I promise you he's going to have the speed late in this run if we can make it there. And still waiting on when we're kind of expecting that first caution. And let's see what happens. Matt Campbell says Brandon Bikey. And I don't get it, and I don't need to. I know Brandon had to get on me a couple times because could not get it right. I kept saying Brandon Bike. And we finally got it to Bikey, and we've gotten it right since. Brandon have a good run, though, so far. Back in the field, the 07, Thomas O'Hara. Scott Glasso back here in 23rd. There's the Hoonigan machine. But Matthew Gehringer ripping the top. Behind him, the 38 has fallen off the pack. In fact, a couple guys have fallen off the pack here. You see back in 30th, Glenn Grigsby, who got spun with no caution, sitting about half a track behind the rest of the field. And then your 27th to 28th place drivers also struggling here, as well as Richard Elliott trying to start to slowly crawl his way back up a couple positions with the other guys that are back there. Remember, he had that amazing save just a handful of laps ago. And Bikey still running the bottom, but the first man now that we are seeing really start to rip some speed on the top, Sean Kaltenbach. But how long can he make it work? You see Joshua Watson still on the inside, able to hang pretty even. And at a certain point, you got to wonder, does the top wear more tires out? I certainly feel like in the trucks and Xfinity, you really can't stick to the bottom, it seems like, after a certain amount of laps. Truck gets too loose, car gets too loose, but the next gens, we've seen it all season. They drive very different at a lot of these tracks. And especially with these guys having the option to downshift here, as we saw earlier. In fact, let's go take a ride on board and show you what I'm talking about here. So Sean Kaltenbach currently sitting in 5th. Joshua Watson in 4th. In fact, I think these two run in slightly different setups here, as Watson's setup is going to be meant to, yep, sure enough, rev out all the way down into turn 1. Sean Kaltenbach, you see he's running a 5th gear setup and actually not doing any shifting at the moment. But you can see that thing is starting to slip and slide up off the turn. Got really, really loose right there. That's where Joshua Watson's going to be looking to make his move. Track temp still pretty toasty. Sim time, though, now 3:14. It looks like it went down a little bit now at 100 degrees. And that should continue to cool. Grip will start to pick up. And if grip's going to pick up, that means speeds are going to continue to pick up. Big battle right here between the 01 and the 2. This is going to be the battle ultimately for second. Joshua Watson trying to take it, run it on the inside, and he's able to draw even, maybe draw slightly ahead every time he makes that move. But Sean Kaltenbach just able to carry more momentum on the top line and is able to get right back to the quarter panel of the 01 down the straightaway. Does he get it here? He doesn't. Almost some contact right there between the 01 and the 2 as they went door to door. As we go back, taking a look from the general view, there's the separation, everybody. You see the leaders coming out of turn 4, and some of the other guys just now exiting turn number 2, rather. Taking a look at Jeff Marble, who earlier we saw with a lot of speed, currently finds himself just inside the top 10. Driver of the 15 had gotten well into the top 5 earlier. A little bit of a struggle right here, but another one of the guys who we saw working the bottom earlier is now trying to get the top moving, trying to get some grip up there. As the run goes on, can the 15 make some speed? To the inside goes Austin Fitzgerald. Jeff Shutt trying to follow that move. Alan Pajari in the big gut paint scheme, sitting just in front of his teammate. And up top, you're not going to get quite as loose. You're going to have some more control. And we talk about the progressive banking. It's kind of hard to represent that for everybody. But again, the lower you are on track, it's going to be the shorter way around, but not as much banking. So you're going to have to slow down more. And the further you go up top, the steeper the banking is, so the more speed you're going to be able to run. but the longer way around. That's why you see guys carry momentum down the straightaway up top. And oh man, what happened to Sean Kaltenbach? Must have been a pretty big mistake here for the 2 cars. He's fallen back tremendously. I'm thinking he got into the wall. Let's back this up. Take a look. You can actually know he was on the bottom. He just gets really, really loose right here. Off of turn number 2. Have seen this story a couple times here tonight. He's able to save it, but had to check up to do so, and that's what cost him those 3 or 4 spots, which sends him back to 6th place. So 51 laps now completed. Joshua Watson still heating up the back bumper of Brandon Bikey. The gap now down to a 10th is running the same line, and Bikey's going to shift up just about a lane here. Brandon Bikey has by far led the most laps here tonight. Has led probably just but 5 of them here so far. But Watson, I think he was just trying to be patient, waiting for us to get into a little bit of a longer run here tonight. This is the first time we're seeing that. And you can see that 01 starting to show a lot of signs of speed right here. Still side by side all the way back in the teens. A lot of battling going on back here again. Coming into the race tonight, really thought that everything would get very separated as the run went on and we'd see everybody migrate to the top. It's just not been the case. I mean, we've seen some of these guys moving to the top, but overall your leaders, the ones that have been running the most speed throughout the run, have been glued to the bottom. Still waiting to see if that changes, but Alan Pajari looking to the inside of Ryan Haynes, who, by the way, up inside the top 10, up 17 positions from where he started. The 39 is by far your biggest mover in the field so far. Talked about Ryan Haynes, another driver looking for his first win of the season, but at this rate, looking to maybe guarantee his best finish of the season. And then, of course, could have a potential shot to go for that win. That is one of the official BMP Racing drivers. And a little 3-wide action here. Man, it looked like they thought about 4-wide. Cody Richardson, I think, thought better of splitting his teammate 4-wide as Andrew Kotska currently sits in that 12th spot. And Cody, who we talked about, struggling a little bit now, starting to make up a couple more positions, getting ready to be knocking on the back door of the top 10. But gets trapped behind Alan Pajari, and you see 3 lanes working. Jeffrey Souza in the middle. Looks like it's Cody Colley up top. And they're going to fan out even more as they go down the back straightaway. The other interesting thing about Homestead that we see is it's so important that you get into a rhythm early, strictly for the fact that turns 1 and 2 drives basically the same as 3 and 4. Turns were designed the same, the banking's the same. Not too much of a difference in terms of the surface, not too many bumps in 1 and 2 or 3 and 4. So if you can run a good line through 1 and 2, you got a pretty good chance that you're going to run a similarly good line through 3 and 4. But if you're messing up one side, there's a good chance you're going to mess up the other. Dave Sanders right on the back of the rookie Matthew Cox. And he's going to try to give him a little push down the back straightaway before now going to jump up to the top line. And they're finally starting to sort it out a little bit. Just ahead of him, Andrew Kotska and Cody Colley still dueling it out. We'll see if Kotska can slide up in line and fill that gap between the 39 and the 11, and he does just that. And meanwhile, up front, the battle between Brandon Bikey and Joshua Watson continues. And I feel like I don't know when the last time it was that I had to see Joshua work this hard to try to get around a car. He is doing everything in his power to get around Brandon Bikey. Just can't do it yet, as you heard a car somewhere on the track get into the wall just then. Watson continues to work that low line, but Bikey able to hold just enough momentum by being in that middle to pull away a little bit down the straightaway. Here's a really good run, though, for Joshua Watson. Is it enough to jump to the inside? It's not. And again, we talked about it, the 13, that little bit of momentum that he pulls down the straightaway is enough to kind of cancel out the effects of the draft that 01 gets. And Bikey really loose. Oh, he's not going to make it. Big hit into the outside wall for Brandon Bikey. Heavy damage to the 13 as now he drives down below the apron. Tried to get just a little bit more than the car wanted to give. And, oh man, a race-winning car may have just turned into a car that isn't even top 5 eligible anymore, as that is a pretty solid impact to the right side for Brandon Bikey. Heavy, heavy damage to the 13. Let's go take a look at this. You saw him get loose. He was trying to stay in the throttle and correct it. And sometimes you do that, you overcorrect, and you pay the price big time. Watch this from the cockpit view. Was running the wall, trying to hold off Joshua Watson. He knows he's about to get clear, gets loose, and there's the overcorrection. And at that point, just not enough grip to steer out of it. Goes at a 45-degree angle into the outside wall, and it looks like from that view he may have something a little broken the steering. A little hard to tell. And that thing does not look like it was turning too well for him after that. Let's take one more shot of it here from the actual view on the outside. Again, was just trying to get a little bit more than the car could handle at this point in the run. And, man, you really hate to see that for Brandon Bikey because, again, he had been doing a tremendous job here tonight. And there you go. It's going to get a little loose on him. And there's the correction. And watch the hit. Boom. Pretty solid shot. You see the resulting damage for the 13 car. He is on the pits now getting repairs. This is probably going to end his night. He will lose at least 1, if not 2 laps in the process of getting that fixed. And on the flip side of that, Joshua Watson may be wiping the sweat off of his brow right now. I think his biggest competition of the night may have just gotten disposed of. Danny Gutierrez, though, moving to second. Another one of the JBRE Racing drivers, teammate to Joshua Watson. You know they're going to be carrying a relatively similar setup here tonight. So we will see if Danny Gutierrez is maybe able to run him down. Currently running that top line just behind him. Tyler Marble looks like has also shifted to the top. And actually that's been the trend for these two here. Take a look as they go down into turn 1. Danny Gutierrez stays on the top. Actually, Tyler Marble you see jump to the bottom. And I'm interested to see if anybody tries a combo of maybe running the bottom in one set of corners and the top in the other. See if that's able to work out at all. But so far, nothing changing there. So as we go back up front, Joshua Watson has taken over the lead here at Homestead after Brandon Bikey contacted to the outside wall. 61 laps complete. Pit stop's going to be coming up shortly when we come back. Stick with us. Back live at Homestead Miami Speedway for the Homestead 200. The FastTrack Sim Racing Cup Series presented by the Alloy Wheel Repair Specialists. Up front, Joshua Watson still being scored as your leader. 66 of 134 laps complete. And again, still not sure on the exact range of the fuel window, but I'm going to have to take a pretty good guess that it's probably going to be sometime within the next 20 to 23 laps. And if they were able to make it that far, as a matter of fact, yeah, we'll have to see. Depending on when they come in, it's going to give us a good estimate on whether or not they're going to be able to make it the rest of the way. Looks like the 64 of Glenn Grigsby is getting lapped. Ooh, that was a big moment off of turn 2. Austin Fitzgerald and Tyler Marble going at it. Fitzgerald's going to dive to the inside, slide right up in front, and take away the air. On the 48, Tyler going to try a little bit of a crossover here. I'm not sure if he's got enough grip to make it stick right now. But when the 48 actually did, he got a really big run on the back bumper of Fitzgerald, but he's going to choose not to pull out Maybe feels like Fitzgerald's a little bit faster than him right now, so he'll just stay tucked in line. And the 48's getting closer and closer to that outside wall, and to give you a pretty good perspective of it here, take a look from the right front. Tyler Marble here. Let's see if he actually does choose to run the wall through 3 and 4. And yeah, sure enough, you see where they enter. And actually, he's not running as close as some of these guys are. Danny Gutierrez looks like he's running a little bit closer to the wall. The gap between him and his teammate has stretched out a little bit. Joshua Watson now leads by over 2 seconds. And you see as Fitzgerald gets into 1 and 2 here. Lets the car roll through the center, gets all the way up to within inches. The camera, I mean, is borderline going inside the wall. And as he works his way off turn 2, trying to get the pedal down, but you hear he had to bail out of it a couple times. It just sounds like the car doesn't really want to stick. So 2 teammates, basically the same setups, but 2 different lines. And as it stands right now, seems like the bottom one still might be the way to go. It's the line that Joshua Watson's been running all race, and it's kept him in contention. Then, of course, after the incident with Brandon Bikey, where Bikey just got loose trying to stick with the 01, he has really had no competition since. And yeah, it looks like Bikey has officially called it for the night, unfortunately. Glenn Grigsby back in 25th. Talked about him just getting put a lap down. And he is the man in the lucky dog position right now. Jeff Marble has lost a lap. And I'm thinking this is by design. I think the 15 brought it down to the pits before anyone. In fact, take a look here and let you know just a moment. You saw Brett Spod making his way down the pits. And yeah, that's the case. Tracy Powers and Jeff Marble, now Brett Spod, the first 3 guys down the pits. So Jeff, one of the guys that was running inside the top 10, trying a little bit of strategy here. And so this tells us now that that fuel window has probably just about opened up. I'm not sure if they're going to be able to make it the rest of the way from here. I'm going to say probably not. 63 laps is going to be a long way to go on a set of tires and fuel. And so when Joshua Watson decides to pit, I think that's going to lay a better roadmap of what the strategy looks like going forward. Austin Fitzgerald continues to pick up the pace. In fact, once he moves up to second here, we'll try to compare the lap times between the 74 and your leader, Joshua Watson. Now he's working on one of the JBRE Racing drivers, teammate to the 01 here tonight, Danny Gutierrez. And Danny continuing to run to the top. That's going to make it a pretty tough pass for Austin Fitzgerald. Tracking him down is one thing, but, man, getting by on the inside is another, especially on old tires, as we're going to see heavy fall off through the run. Fitzgerald tried to dive it in a little deeper right there. It's really close enough. He got clear. Trying the slide job. Not going to make it work. You see he has to bail out of it with the wheel to the left. Gets really loose, and now all that ground that he made up and all the time that he spent making it up, he's going to have to start again from square one. And all this battling between these two continues to let the 01 pull away. And Danny Gutierrez's case, I don't think he minds seeing the 01 get the win here tonight, especially if he could bring home a second place. A win would certainly be better. But, I mean, if we get a late restart and the 08 lines up second, I think Joshua Watson maybe tries to do his teammate a little bit of a favor and maybe not race him too hard, but maybe race the guys behind him a little bit harder. But right now, the 01 has pulled away to a 3-second lead. Like I said, ever since Bikey made that mistake, it has just been nothing but pure dominance right here from Joshua Watson. Nobody been able to come within reaching distance. Further towards the back, a lot of things starting to get spread out, but still some battling going on in the track. Sean Kaltenbach and Matthew Cox going at it a little bit there as they go down to turn 3 just behind them. Kyle Oakley in the 17 up inside the top 10 right now. There's Jeffrey Souza back in 11th. And Cody Richardson on the inside in 12th. He's got his teammate Andrew Kotska just behind him. And Bill Benedict on the outside. Thomas O'Hara on the inside. And just the separation continues. Matthew Gearinger, Johnny McCulchuk get into it a little bit as McCulchuk has now broken into the top 20. Up 5 positions from where he started. And Matthew Gearinger is up 13 positions from where he started. But still awaiting that first pit stop for Joshua Watson. You got to wonder if maybe there was a chance of 2 different strategies. Might have potentially been borderline 1 stop. You may have to save a little bit. And maybe that's why we saw Jeff Marble decide to go in early. Maybe he's going to try to split this thing into 2 stops. See if he can't make up the time on new tires that he'll have through the runs. Whereas if Joshua Watson can make it, I would say if somehow he can manage to stay out for another 10 to 15 laps, then I would put my money on a pretty good bet that they could maybe make it the rest of the way. Assuming that we don't see a caution. But as we talked about rounding out the schedule for the rest of the season, for anybody that missed it earlier for the FastTrack Sim Racing Cup Series, Next week, we are going to head to Martinsville for the final race in the playoffs and in the round of 8 before the championship for the week after that, which will be at Phoenix for, I believe it's either 154 or 156 laps. After that, we head into the offseason. I do believe Alan Pajari has a winter league going on. If you're interested in that, let us know. We'll get you the details on it. And after that, it'll be just a break till next season. A lot of these guys going to be looking to carry momentum into Daytona next season. But first, got to get things wrapped up here at Homestead. And you look at the point situation, not only the points battle for the guys that are looking to advance to the championship but the non-playoff driver points battle, where there will be money up at the end of the season on the line for I believe it's the top 3 that finish in it. But as it stands right now, Adrian Watts is leading that battle. Jeffrey Souza second. And it looks like he is currently sitting about 17 points behind your leader. Jared Bundy in 3rd, Thomas O'Hara in 4th, Glenn Grigsby in 5th, Jacob Musso in 6th, Kyle Oakley 7th, with Cody Matthews in 8th, Brandon Bikey 9th, and Richard Elliott, who we talked about making that return here tonight. He is the last man inside the top 10 for that battle. It's been a pretty fun season so far. We've seen a lot of crazy things, and if you got any of them that you can remember, please feel free to share them. We might share some of those things in the last race of the season, just depending on different stuff. Not sure exactly how we're going to lay the format of it out first. Try to set something special up for these Final Fours. It's been a long road. You got to remember, these guys followed the real-life NASCAR season, so this season kicked off back last February. And to think that we are within 2 weeks of closing it all out, Tracy Powers going by to get his lap back. And as Watson continues to stay out, the strategy being pulled by Jeff Marble continues to intrigue me more and more. As you see Ryan Haynes on the pits, the BMP Racing driver, getting 4 tires and fuel. Sean Kallenbach, by the way, he has made his pit stop. Looks like Alan Pajari as well. So I think once Joshua Watson finally does decide to pit, we're going to see a change to the lead, at least probably for the first 10 to 15 laps, until that 01's able to get those tires broken in and start tracking back down the guys that short pit. And the 01 thought maybe he was slow enough to go in this time. You got to be careful getting on pit road here. It is one of the trickier ones that we head to. Again, a little bit similar to Dover in the sense of it comes up on you so much quicker than you're expecting. And once you go from the banking onto the flats, you have to really slow down. You can't carry nearly as much speed as you feel like you can while you're on the banking. And we've already seen a couple times throughout this week, either in officials or probably in practice, some of these guys getting into the barrels cannot afford to make that mistake right here. If you are any of these top 3, all playoff drivers, remind you, next playoff driver in line though right now, you got to go all the way back to 10th to find Cody Richardson, up 8th from where he started. Rebounded pretty good after being involved in that first caution. Looks like they were able to buff out the dent that he got in the back bumper pretty well. And there's Brian Conklin, made his way back out on track, just looking to see if he can scrape up whatever points possible. And I do like that the 37's doing this. I think it's a good idea, because if he doesn't, he loses, as of right now, it looks like another 4 or 5 spots to the guys that have retired from the race. And again, still a long ways to go. You never know what could happen. As Brett Spott looks like he's still on the pits. Not sure exactly what happened with the 38. Car seems to be clean, but yeah, still stopped on pits. As you saw, Dave Sanders works his way into his box, and Cody Richardson is now going to bring the 46 machine down. And in Watson's case, if he's got enough fuel, or even if saving's going to give enough fuel, I think it's a good idea for him to stay out. Again, you might as well gamble. You already got that win. You know you're locked in. But let's take a listen and look at the throttle tracing here for Josh and see what it's looking like. As he gets down into the corner, rolls it nice and smooth all the way down to the bottom. Lets it roll and then slowly gets back in the throttle. Certainly doesn't sound like he's saving a big excess of fuel, if anything. So it seems like the driver of the 01 is just kind of running his line right now, feeling pretty comfortable and confident with where he's at. And again, if he can make it about another 6 laps or so, I would put myself in pretty good confidence that the 01 is going to make this thing a one-stopper from when we went back green. And looking at the lap times, actually it's going to be a little bit of a hard to tell, but you see 34.4s for Joshua Watson. If we go back and compare that here to Cody Richardson, who just came out on new tires, we'll give him a lap to get up to speed right here. You see beforehand for Joshua Watson, it was a 34. This is going to be his first lap really up to speed on these new tires, as Pajari made his pit stop not too long ago. You see running plenty faster there. I think it's going to be about a second to a second and a half fall off. And as Cody Richardson crosses the line, he's going to go 33.4. You compare that up front to a 34.4. Yeah, about a second of fall off. So certainly a noticeable amount. I mean, you do the math. Every lap at this point that Joshua Watson stays out, anybody that was on new tires, he was losing probably well over to a second. That can accumulate quick, but now he's going to make his pit stop. Man, Fitzgerald really flying in behind him. Thought the 74 was maybe going to be the first man to get in the barrels here tonight, but he was able to get it wound up in time. And this pit stop comes at a very interesting number, lap 86. And so it's still going to be not quite 44, probably about 48 laps to go on fuel when Joshua Watson works his way back out. I'm not sure, again, on whether or not he can make that fuel number work. As he's going to get 4 tires fuel. And take a look at the driver cam. He's going to grab quick smoke as well. I'll tell you what, that reminds, I think it was it Colt Trickle? I believe it was a different guy. He used to smoke while they were on the brakes in the NASCAR in real life. Joshua Watson makes his way back out on track now, and in fact, I wanted to look back a little further, but let's see where Watson blends out. You see these guys do have to take the access road. Not a very fun task to have to do, but one of the things that you experience by racing here at Homestead is you see the short pit worked out for now in the sense of Jeff Marble has taken the lead over Joshua Watson. And then in front of them, we got a couple other guys trying some strategy. It looks like Danny Gutierrez making his way down to his box now. Adrian Watts as well. And this should all be rounded up pit stops for JBR E-Racing. Granted, not sure if Richard Elliott has pit yet or not. And so Joshua Watson here as he works his way off of turn number 2. Going to quickly drop into the draft of Jeff Marble. He'll be able to make that pass here in probably about the next lap or so. And if you're Jeff at this point, can't do too much besides just try to run the bottom and see if you can fend off that 0-1 for an extra lap and a half. But I'm telling you, new tires, about a second difference a lap. You're certainly not going to be able to defend that much. But all in all, I don't think this is too bad of a strategy here from Jeff. I mean, you figure the short pit has kept him out this long. If he makes his final stop here, I mean, you figure sometime within maybe the next 10 laps, he's already gained time. It's going to be very, very interesting on if Joshua Watson has to pit again, then short pitting may have been the move. We'll see. Could Jeff Marble pull off some pretty crazy strategy right here at the end of this thing, get himself locked in? Here's a look at Jeff on the bottom right of your screen. Going to be coming up on 90 laps to go. Next time, there's Tyler Marble. As again, everything just continues to cycle out right now. Kyle Oakley making his way down to the pits. The driver of the 17 just before the stop was running second as they were going through the cycles. And he is up 14 spots as it stands right now from where he started this race at. He'll take 4 tires and fuel. That leaves the rookie, one of the rookies rather, Matthew Cox, in control here at Homestead. And the 32 machine is up 12 from where he started. Again, just, I think if you're Matthew Cox at this point, not a playoff driver, just maybe hoping for a caution, get himself on some fresh tires and on an even playing field with the rest of the pack. But as it stands right now, once he pits, he's going to lose a ton of time. But see how many laps he can continue to make it on fuel. There's the 2 of Cody Matthews. He's up to second now, up 24 from where he started. And Joshua Watson back to third. He got around Jeff Marble. Figured it probably wouldn't take too long, and it certainly didn't. And now he sets his sights. Well, actually doesn't even really set his sights. He's going to wait for these front 2 to pit. Is currently over 25 seconds back from your leader. And once they do, that'll put the 0-1 back out in front as by right now, looks like about 2 seconds. You got to think that's going to extend here as Tyler Marble, another one of the guys trying some strategy. Sean Kaltenbach and Austin Fitzgerald going to be knocking on the back door. That 48 machine here in just about half a lap. Tyler trying everything he can. Got a top 5 run going as of now, even with these 2 going by, because the 2 leaders still have to pit. And it looks like, speaking of pitting, Matthew Cox going to make his way down into his box. That leaves Cody Matthews as the odd man out right now. And the 10 Bucky's machine getting a couple extra laps led here at Homestead. Never a bad thing to do. Get your driver a little bit extra confidence. Get you as a driver a little bit extra confidence rather. And another one trying a similar strategy to Matthew Cox here. Probably hoping maybe we can get a caution, but with as spread out as things have gotten at this point, with what we saw at Vegas last week, the chances for a caution continue to diminish as almost some contact there between Fitzgerald and Kaltenbach. Fitzgerald looking to the inside. He knows he needs to try to get around all these guys as soon as possible. But since he has fresher tires, the longer he takes, the farther away that Joshua Watson is going to get. with 93 laps. So just getting ready to approach 40 laps, which I would say with pretty good confidence, these guys can make 40 laps on a full tank. The problem is, don't believe anybody, nobody did quite go that long here. Cody Matthews, blinking a little bit here. He'll still be out then wow. What has happened to the driver of the 10? He may have just completely blinked out. No, he didn't. Blinks back in as he makes his entry to the pits. Whatever it was, it worked. Got himself in nice and smooth. Let's go get an update on how some of the other guys carrying driver cams for us are doing here tonight. Talked about Tyler Marble in second. Actually got back around Jeff Marble in the 15 machine. And there's a look at one of the two Team Marble iRacing drivers with a good run here tonight. Brian Conklin, of course, unfortunate, involved in an incident early. And since then, just hasn't been able to recover, just outrunning for any points he can get right now. And then we've talked about quite a bit. Joshua Watson leading the race, sitting in that first position. Austin Fitzgerald, who currently sits back in fourth. And again, Austin sideways for us here tonight. But nonetheless, there he is, the driver, the number 74. Behind him, going to go back a little bit further, Cody Richardson, Danny Gutierrez, two more of the playoff drivers in the field here tonight. Matthew Cox, Cody Colley with good runs. Kyle Oakley back in 15th. We saw him make his pit stop. And then Johnny Mikulchuk and Ryan Haynes, the two other drivers carrying onboard cameras for us here tonight. Johnny Mikulchuk currently finds himself back in 20th position. And Ryan Haynes, who we actually saw making his way to the front earlier, had a phenomenal run going. He is still having a pretty good run. Currently finds himself in 14th position, and he is up 13 from where he started. There's the driver, the number 39, BMP Chevy Camaro. And so at this point in the race, we have everybody 25th on up. Excuse me, I take that back. 22nd on up on the lead lap. First man a lap down. Looks like is Matthew Gearinger at the moment. And if we were to get a caution, that would mean he would get the lucky dog. Still, again, not 100% sure on whether or not we're expecting another green flag stop. I think it's going to be really close. And I think there's a certain lap that if you don't see these guys pit by, then they're probably not going to have to pit at all. And maybe that marks somewhere around 10 to go. Maybe right around lap 24, 25. And if they pit before then, I think that means obviously they weren't good to go, and maybe playing a little strategy of splitting this thing in half. And Jeff Marble's short pitting strategy, I thought it was going to work a little better than it has so far. As you see now, he is falling on the scoring tower 7 seconds behind your leader, Joshua Watson. So I think if you're Jeff here, you got to just kind of double down, try to pit, as he's just going to continue to lose positions with those older tires. So as we approach lap 100, it is still all Joshua Watson out front. Can he go back-to-back, win at Homestead, and maybe try to go for a trio next week at Martinsville? We will find out when we come back. Stick with us at Homestead. Back live at Homestead, Miami Speedway, winding down on the end of the Homestead 200, where Joshua Watson continues to lead the way. 103 of 134 laps complete. For anybody just tuning in or that's been sticking around, certainly appreciate you being here. Second to last race in the round of 8, Austin Fitzgerald trying to find anything to catch your leader. Currently sits 4.7 seconds behind, but bad news for him is he pit on the same lap as Joshua Watson, so no real tire advantage. I just don't know if he's going to be able to find almost 5 seconds worth of time in 30 laps with the pace that Joshua Watson's been running, at least not without a caution, that is. But Tyler Marble, I'll tell you what, a bounce back from last week to say the least so far. Not going to talk about him too long because we don't want to put the announcers jinx, but sitting in third right now, up 4 positions from where he started. And if he can get through what, again, assume is going to be one more pit stop cleanly, then the driver of the number 48 is going to have himself in good position for Martinsville, which, again, you never know what's going to happen at Martinsville, but it certainly helps if you have a little bit of a cushion or a little bit of comfort. And with the run that we saw Brian Kaufman go through here tonight, I think that's going to move, obviously, him further back and maybe somebody else in. But, I mean, you look at Danny Gutierrez, the last man in. He's had a good run here tonight. Austin Fitzgerald was in. He's had a good run here tonight. Jeff Marble, though, falling back to 10th. I think he's going to be the one that maybe falls a position or two. Danny Gutierrez currently sitting in 7th, though. He's actually fallen some spots here. Not sure if maybe he had a little bit of an issue through his pit stop or just tried some strategy that didn't work out. But we had saw the 08 up in 2nd, and I would say up in the top 5 here for a good while. He'd been running the top, and actually, if we go back to Danny Gutierrez, as they go down into turn 1, he is back to rolling the bottom. Not sure if that car just started to feel a little bit uncomfortable on the top or what. Reminder that next place we're going to head here on Ghost Racing Network tomorrow night to RMR's Tuesday Night Thunder. And make sure you tune in for that one. Going to be, I believe it's at, yeah, sure enough, back at Talladega Super Speedway. Dawson Wise will join me in the booth. Been a fun series so far. It's going to be good. And then after this race here tonight, the Little Guy Series, one of the money racing series over at Dega Pros. If you want to check them out, we'll put the Discord description below. And if you're interested in joining the FastTrack Sim Racing Cup series next season, again, it will be fast approaching. I believe they'll set it up similar to this season where it'll start just at the same time as the real life season starts. And let us know. We can get you the Discord link for that as well. Get yourself some info on it. Decide if it's the right series for you or not. They also have a truck series that you can run on Wednesdays. Get a feel for it before you move up to the Cup series. And as we go back here, I saw Jeff Marble getting into a little bit of a battle right here with, looks like, yeah, Andrew Kotska, Glenn Grigsby, one of the lappers, but this is a big position right here because it's both playoff drivers. Jeff trying to hold on, but he is on those older tires. Andrew Kotska working the top. As Brandon Bikey in the chat says, I wrecked her bad. Yeah, we saw it, Brandon. And the only guy that maybe was going to put a torch to Joshua Watson here tonight. And that chance is going to go up in flames. Jeff Marble sliding off of turn 2. He is going to lose that spot indeed to Andrew Kotska, just not able to hold on anymore. So if you're Jeff at this point, I continue to say, I'm not 100% sure if there's a pit stop left in the game or the fuel strategy for these guys. But if there is, man, I think you really got to abandon ship here soon as he just continues to lose positions. One thing we have learned from this run is that short pitting was not the right call. And how about Jeff Shutt? Currently now running third. Caught my eyes. He just got past Tyler Marble. And I say past, but these two still going at it pretty hard. Jeff's going to dive it down. Tyler Marble looking for a big side draft right there on the 27. Checked up as I think he realized maybe he was getting just a little too close for comfort. And Jeff Shutt maybe tried a little strategy here as he has now found some speed. And that 27 machine came just short of making the round of 8. But the driver for No Excuses Racing looking for a potential podium here tonight. And could he set his sights to go see if he could catch Austin Fitzgerald? Currently sits 8 seconds behind the leader. You do that math, he's about 2.8 seconds behind Austin Fitzgerald. And as we note that, again, Fitzgerald just not really been able to find much time. Slowly continues to lose on Joshua Watson, but it's going to be a good points night. And he'll just go into Martinsville hoping to survive, of course. Joshua Watson continues to put on a clinic, and at this point, without a caution, Watson has to feel like he can basically set sail. 24 laps to go. How about a little crank it up from Homestead? Here we go. And that's going to wrap it up for our Crank It Up segment here tonight. Hope everybody did enjoy. Still no change up front, but we did see the battle right there between Tyler Marble and Adrian Watson. You saw how hard Tyler was fighting to try to hold off the 27 of Jeff Shutt. You know he's going to do just the same here for Adrian Watts, but just so hard to do on those older Goodyears. Adrian Watts, a little bit fresher tires due to differing pitch strategy. He's trying to work his way to the inside, though. Tyler cutting off, taking any clean air away from that 03, and then trying to maintain momentum on the outside. I think if he lets Adrian jump to his outside, though, here, it's going to be all but over. His 48 slips up, and there it is. The 03 is going to get to the outside. Tyler Marble trying to side draft, do anything he can here to pull him back. But it's going to be a futile effort as the 03 better drive into the corner. Tyler Marble pulls even. Actually does a way better job right there than I thought he was going to do. Sticks with him. And Adrian Watts was not able to maintain the momentum initially off the corner, so they'll stay side by side down the front straightaway. Tyler thinking about sending it in, but Adrian Watts leaning really hard on the right door. Now there's a little contact between the two. Tyler Marble does not want to give up the spot. Adrian Watts trying everything in his power to gain an extra position and break into the top 5. And when I mentioned the top 5, Matthew Cox is the one that's going to try to be getting into the top 5 as these two were battling for 4th. Now Adrian Watts going to slip up the track. Almost looked like he would have had a tire go down there, but I think he just got out of the groove, and all this battling has allowed Matthew Cox to pull right up and slip by the 48 without any contest. And so now Adrian Watts back in 6th. We'll see if the 03 is able to track down the 48 again, as that bumps Tyler Marble outside of the top 5, was in podium position. And we look at the gap between Austin Fitzgerald and Jeff Shutt. Looks like it is about 3 seconds. So Fitzgerald, or rather I should say Jeff Shutt, not actually really closing the gap on second place Austin Fitzgerald as we approach 16 laps to go. And I think Joshua Watson, I'm not going to call it just yet, but I definitely thought these guys would have pitted by now if they had to make one. Ooh, man, the 01 running by himself with plenty of room, and he's still slipping up. That shows you just how dedicated these guys are to trying to run every lap as fast as possible. He'll take the inside here as he tries to work his way around Jeffrey Souza. Souza on the outside, but I believe would be a lapper here, so I don't think you'll give him too much trouble. 96 maintains a little momentum on the top. The 01 going to get clear through the middle of 1 and 2. As you saw, looked like Fitzgerald was maybe blinking a little bit right there. Couldn't tell who that was. And I believe that actually may have been somebody else, one of the lappers. The 38, Christopher Hall. And the 31 of Matthew Gearing are riding along with Austin Fitzgerald. And by the way, looks like Austin has chose to move up to the top line here. A little bit of an interesting decision. We'll see how well it works out for him. Another 4-gear setup here for Austin Fitzgerald, similar to what we see for Joshua Watson up front. Is now he's going to go right back down to the bottom. So certainly Homestead, in terms of the racing and strategy, didn't disappoint. And I feel like whether it's in real life or in the game, a lot of simulation, a lot of times when we go to Homestead, we don't see a lot of cautions. And now that they have gotten as spread out as they are, you certainly don't expect one for these next 15 laps or so. And it's just all a matter of, can Joshua Watson make it 14 laps from now to the white flag when this race would be declared official? As you see Jeff Marble taking another lap from his teammate Brian Coughlin, who, remember, there was 33 drivers in the field tonight, but after all the retirements, Brian Coughlin, even after being as many laps down as he is, currently sits 27th. So he's, again, gained probably about 5 positions, which could be 5 points or so from what he initially would have been at if he were to stay retired from the race. Scott Glasso, the last car currently sitting on the lead lap, it looks like. He finds himself back in 25th position. I take that back. He's actually one of the guys that's more than a lap down, as Dave Sanders is the last man on the lead lap, and he finds himself back in 16th. And the first man in the lucky dog position here looks like is actually going to be just behind Dave Sanders, Jeffrey Souza. And Sanders going to be in danger of going a lap down here before this race is all said and done, as you see now both of them in the same set of corners, Joshua Watson and Jeffrey Souza, that is. Coming out of turn 2, now 13 laps to go. Continues to wind down. We saw throughout the season what happened when you allowed this guy to get on a hot streak. And it's looking like they might let him heat up even more. Going to go on a hot streak in the 3 races right before the championship 4. That is about the worst time to have it happen for the rest of the competition. But that's all the news that Joshua Watson wants to hear. Jeff Shutt continuing to try everything in his power to track down Austin Fitzgerald. Just doesn't seem like he can make time. But the strategy here by Matthew Cox has been another very impressive one. It has seemed like the guys that chose to stay out the longest have been the ones making up the most position here through this second run. And remember, based off when Matthew Cox pit, I do strongly believe that that one car is plenty good to go the rest of the way. And if that were to be the case, and for some reason your leaders had to pit, then I think we'd see that one win this race. And I'd say 1:32 on your screen, officially the number one though, but approaching 10 laps to go, that was the mark that I said if these guys make it to there, I'm thinking they're probably not going to have to pit again. Again, we don't have the actual fuel number here in our data. Kyle Oakley back in 9th, currently one of the last two inside the top 10. Getting a great run here tonight for Kyle, and a couple mistakes throughout the season and a couple sequence of bad luck, especially in races where he had a ton of speed, were the only factors that kept his 17 from making the playoffs. And I think if he would have got in, he would have been a pretty big threat to go at least probably to the round of 12, round of 8 region. But you look back now and continuing to try to carry some momentum throughout the rest of the season here with only 2 races remaining. Ryan Haynes in 13, still a good run for him. Thomas Arra back in 14. Ooh, had somebody shoot off. And actually, Jeff Marble back in 15th. You got to wonder, did the 15 make another stop here? Taking a look real quick. And from all the data we have, I don't think he did. There's a chance he may have. Tires may be starting to fall off here. Certainly not showing the data of where it would have said that Jeff Marble came down to the pits, but you got to assume something happened for him to be back where he is now. It looks like Jeffrey Souza may have had some issues here. Watch the 96. This is going through turns 1 and 2 off the turn. Ooh, just comes around on him. Seen a lot tonight, going for a slide, and ooh, backs it into that kind of area where the wall pokes in rather. And again, no caution as it was off the racing surface, just one car. But man, you know Joshua Watson, if he saw any part of that, probably made his heart skip a beat. He is saying, come on guys, hold it clean for me for 7 more laps so we can make it to the white flag and make this thing official. He stretched the lead out now to 6.3 seconds over Austin Fitzgerald. I think the more intriguing gap, though, is the one between, well, actually, initially what would have been Jeff Shutt and Fitzgerald, but now Matthew Cox and Austin Fitzgerald. We talked about Matthew Cox, went flying around. Tyler Marble, a couple others. Haven't kept an eye on him since, but he just got around Jeff Shutt, and the gap between him and Austin Fitzgerald is about 2.4 seconds. And still going to be a lot of time to try to make up in what's going to be probably just about 6 laps to go as he crosses the line right there. 7 laps for him, but nonetheless, again, a great run if he could finish this thing off on the podium. Does have a win this season, but unfortunately, due to not making enough races, he will not be eligible, or excuse me, was not eligible for the playoffs. And that is why we do not see him probably in the round of 8, as I think that rookie had definitely a lot of potential and how deep he could go into these playoffs. But now, just continues to try to work with his team and get ready for next season. Richard Elliott in 22nd. Hasn't really been able to recover the way he would have liked after that big save that he had during this green flag run. And as good as the save was, that was the problem with having a moment on a long run like this, is you don't get a caution and you find yourself in pretty deep trouble, as the 0-2 did. Adrian Watts looking through the middle, and I'll tell you what, Adrian Watts and Tyler Marble, they have not been able to find a way to get away from each other, as Adrian still sits in 6th, but he sits just behind Tyler Marble in the 48. Looked like earlier the 0-3 had fresher tires, but you saw just how important it was for Tyler to battle him, because now it got the 0-3 trap back behind, and as the tires have started to even out just a little bit, it seems like the 0-3 no longer quite has the speed to get by Tyler Marble so easily. Danny Gutierrez back in 7th, Cody Richardson in 8th. Kyle Oakley 9th, Cody Colley in 10th. Looking at the other playoff drivers in the field, Andrew Kotska in 12th, Jeff Marble in 14th. And going on back, Brian Conklin back in 27th still. Your top 2, though, playoff drivers, and then Tyler Marble, as we noted, in 5th, and Gutierrez and Cody Richardson, the other 2 that are in the top 10. So you got 5 out of the 8 in the top 10, the other 3 scattered throughout the field. And as we're coming to what's going to be 3 laps to go, the next time Joshua Watson crosses the line, the chance for any of these other guys to steal a win here tonight continues to diminish, as that Jeff Marble, like he's going to actually be in danger of going a lap down right here. Really not sure what happened to the 15. Not sure if he's been tapped into. I'm just not sure what happened to the 15 here. If there had been some strategy involved or what, but I mean, Joshua Watson has been putting down a blazing pace, has lapped almost double digits worth cars. Actually, yeah, has lapped in the double digits worth cars here tonight. As everybody now, including Jeff Marbles, looks like he is going to lose that lap on back, so he is in the free pass. But yeah, 14th on back. Actually, Sanders is in the free pass now. 14th on back is a lap down. So Thomas O'Hara in 13th, the last man on the lead lap. We'll see if he can keep it that way for the next 3 laps. 2 laps to go at Homestead. Final chance for a caution. Joshua Watson looking to round things out right here. The 01 has been so dominant here tonight. Just a couple more sets of corners to go. And not only does he know that he's already got his ticket punched to the championship floor, but he's got a chance to go back to back and add to that win total yet again. Austin Fitzgerald in second. No chance of catching. Now the battle, though, between Matthew Cox and Austin Fitzgerald definitely got a little interesting here as it got narrowed down to about a second. I think if Matthew Cox had another lap or two, he would have a chance at it. But up front, Joshua Watson's going to see the white flag. This race will be official. 2 more sets of corners for the 01. We saw a lot of action in the first half of this race. Couldn't have told you who was going to win in terms of between the battle of the 01 and the battle of the 13. Brandon Bikey. Bikey slipped up. And since then, been all green flag racing, and it has been quite the night for Joshua Watson. Took over the laps led category, and as he works his way out of turn 4, he will add yet another win to the books. JBR E-Racing is going to send their driver to victory lane. Joshua Watson wins it at Homestead. Nicely done. You see the fist pump. It's not going to be quite as sweet as the win was last week, but it's certainly going to be a good one. And we'll see if we get another wheel-off burnout here that we saw last weekend. Tell you something, if you haven't seen this one, make sure you stick around for it. It's a pretty cool thing to see. So as Joshua Watson brings home the win, Austin Fitzgerald, a phenomenal run for another one of the playoff drivers. He'll bring home second. Matthew Cox, the rookie, almost gets there, but still about a half a second gap between him and Austin Fitzgerald at the line. Jeff Shutt back and forth. Tyler Marble able to get back and recover to a top 5 finish. Adrian Watts back in 6th, Danny Gutierrez in 7th, Cody Richardson in 8th, Kyle Oakley in 9th, and Cody Colley rounding out your top 10. And we'll clear out the screen. Here it is, the burnout for the 01. Spinning the tires, doesn't need the steering wheel. It's got it parked up against the wall. I'm not sure where the smoke's at, though. Maybe he burned just about everything left off the smoke on those tires, as that was a pretty long run that they went. Nonetheless, though, the 01 wins it at Homestead, as he's going to park it here before we get interviews from your top 3. We'll take a look at your finishing results here for the night. Joshua Watson, your winner at Homestead. Austin Fitzgerald brings home 2nd. Matthew Cox in 3rd, Jeff Shutt 4th, Tyler Marble in 5th, Adrian Watts back in 6th. It's going to be Danny Gutierrez finishing up in 7th. I apologize, I'll turn the audio down just a little bit. Cody Richardson, good comeback for him as he's able to hold on to 8th here tonight. Kyle Oakley finishes up in 9th. And it's going to be, Kyle Oakley in 9th and Cody Colley rounding out your top 10 here for the Knights. Back in 11th, Sean Kaltenbach. 12th is going to be Andrew Kotska. Thomas O'Hara in 13th with Dave Sanders in 14th. Jeff Marble rounds out the top 15 here tonight. Ryan Haynes in 16th. Johnny McCulchuk back in 17th with Jeffrey Souza in 18th. Christopher Hall 19th, and it's going to be Bill Benedict rounding out your top 20. Cody Matthews finishes 21st. Alan Pajari 22nd. Richard Elliott 23rd. Matthew Gearinger 24th. Scott Glasso in 25th. Glenn Grigsby in 26th. Ryan Conklin in 27th. Tracy Powers 28th. Brett Spod in 29th. Andrew Russo rounding out your top 30. Brandon Bikey finishes 31st. It's going to be Andrew Nieder in 32nd. And Jared Bundy rounding out the field tonight. He finishes in 33rd. All right, we're going to go bring in your top 3 for interviews. Stick with us. We'll be right back at Homestead. All right, and we're going to start first with your third place finisher here tonight, Matthew Cox. Matthew, you got a copy?
Yeah, I got you. You got me?
Yes, sir. Well, not making a run for the championship this season, but nonetheless, a very strong run here tonight. You bring home a podium finish, and I'll tell you what, you had me kind of thrown for a loop on the strategy, but it seemed like it was working out really well. You think if we had maybe another long stint, you have a chance to go try to win this race?
I don't know about winning the race. I feel like I probably could have gotten second with another 10 laps or so, but yeah, I really screwed up my qualifying effort, so kind of ruined it for me.
Well, nonetheless, we talked about that it still was a good run. We saw a lot of different lanes here tonight. You came up on some intense battles, but overall, what was your favorite thing you took here from Homestead tonight?
I just kind of favor these tracks where saving tires does kind of pay off. So, yeah, good long runs, save your tires, and you can take off.
Certainly can. All right, well, before we let you head out here tonight, is there anyone you'd like to thank or shout out?
Oh yeah, just my family for putting up with me and letting me race on Monday nights, and everything that the marbles do to put this thing on, and of course you guys for broadcasting. I appreciate it.
All right, well, we appreciate you talking to us. Congrats on the third place finish, and we'll see you next week.
See ya.
All right, and now that's going to bring us to your second place finisher. Excuse me, man, stumbling on words here tonight. Second place finisher, Austin Fitzgerald, the man who is not stumbling on his driving here tonight. Austin, you got a copy?
Hey, Austin.
All right, well, you bring home second. A lot of long runs. We know you like those, but man, just not quite enough to catch Joshua Watson over time. How'd you feel about your car here tonight?
It was a good long run car. I had nothing for Watson. That's probably a bore to watch at the end there. And then I think with like 10 to go, I realized Matthew Cox is kind of catching up to me. So I was kind of just racing to hold on to second there. I probably didn't help myself when I gave it away when I was pitting. I announced to Jeff, who's behind me, that I was pitting. I just didn't want to risk, an accident or something. Because, when you pit, you slow down coming off of 4, and I didn't want to risk him hitting me. So I announced it, and then right when I announced it, I could see that Josh decided to pit too. Whether or not that's what, made up his mind as to pitting, I don't know, but I think it did. And if I didn't announce it, then I might have been able to gain a second or two on him, and then, maybe came out closer behind him. But I just got trapped behind a couple guys who are on older tires, I think. Who was it, Sean and Tyler? They're on a bit older tires, and I got stuck behind them, and I lost a couple seconds on Watson, kind of burned up my stuff there. But I'm happy with second because I should be sitting pretty good in points right now heading into Martinsville, which really maybe it doesn't lock me in going to Phoenix, but it should be pretty close to locking me in. So that's nice, at least. Solid points day.
Well, that brings up the next topic that I want to kind of talk about here for just a moment. Martinsville, we know it's a wild card, not quite the kind of wild card that we see at a track like Talladega, but even being as good as you might be on points, we know anything can happen. So how do you kind of go about approaching that race? Do you stay aggressive, do the same thing, or do you maybe try to be conservative, stay towards the back?
Well, I think when you stay towards the back, if you have the car that can run up front, you got to run up front, because when you're in the back, that's when you get caught up in stuff. So earlier in the year, where we definitely had a lot of speed at Martinsville, and I don't know if you recall or not, but I had a pretty good lead, and I pitted, and then the caution came out. It kind of screwed my day. So I know I should probably have a car fast enough to run up towards the front. So definitely always run up towards the front if I can.
All right. Well, before we let you head out here tonight, is anyone you'd like to thank or shout out?
Yeah, as always, thank you to my wife and my family, and it's a lot of work that wives or significant others have to put into to allow their husband or wife or whatever to do this and to race every week, because it is time consuming, especially when you figure in practice and all that. So I'm really thankful for my wife allowing me to do this, and really thankful for Dynamic Autosports, the team, and Alan, and all the work everybody puts in together every week with each other, between setups and whatnot. And thank you for the broadcasts, and Tyler and Jeff for this league. And yeah, looking forward to these last 2 races.
All right. Well, thank you for talking to us, and we will see you next week in Martinsville.
See you, Austin.
All right. Now that's going to bring us to your race winner here tonight, Joshua Watson. Josh, this is Austin up at the booth. Get a copy.
Yes, I do, bub.
Well, you go back-to-back and another clinic of a performance here tonight at Homestead, over almost 7 seconds, the final lead at the start-finish line. I'll tell you what, though, early you had your hands tied with the rookie. Tell us about the battling going on between you and Brandon Bikey.
Yeah, that was a really good battle. I was trying to push, but not over-push, see what I could kind of force him to do, whether it was make a mistake or something, but I felt like long run we were better. Not by much, but I think by just enough. We had caught him and just about got around him before that first caution come out. And then on the restart, we've battled a little bit harder, tried to stay a little bit closer. And I don't know if he got loose on the outside or whatnot. I know once I got underneath of him, that top side can get really loose. And I felt like trying to hold him up there, I could make him burn up the right rear. And it almost seemed like that's what happened, so it was unfortunate. It was definitely a heck of a battle, lap after lap, trying to figure out how to get around him if I could. Like I said, I felt like we were a little bit better on the long run, but he was definitely holding his own and had a really fast car tonight.
All right, well, you get a back-to-back win here tonight with the win at Homestead. And I'll tell you what, not quite as exciting as the one last week, of course, but it's got to give you some extra momentum. So moving on to next week at Martinsville, do you try to make it 3 for 3, or do you just kind of play it safe, see if you can't maybe help a teammate get in?
Well, we're going to try to keep the momentum rolling. We're going to see where Danny falls after tonight. I know he made a really big leap after last week. He was 8th in the points. 12 points out, and after last week's race, he jumped up to 4th, 1 point out. So he had a really good, solid run today, good, solid points night. Some of the other playoff guys fell back, so we'll see how he falls. But yeah, definitely going to be trying to be up front and try to keep the momentum going. Anytime you got momentum, you want to keep it going, and you want to try to stop anybody else from getting momentum, especially at Martinsville, because that's, the next to last race coming up to the championship floor. So if we can keep the momentum rolling, that's what we're going to try to do, and hopefully have a good showing there and get ready to focus on Phoenix.
All right, well, before we let you head out here tonight, is there anyone you'd like to thank or shout out?
Yes, I'd like to thank Ryko and everybody at Ryko for the customer support and the awesome setups week in and week out. Everybody at JBRE Racing, from Richard to Danny to Adrian and my brother Brian, Glasgow Volunteer Fire Department, Hoyt, Mayor Brothers, all the sponsors of this league, you for putting on the broadcast. Like I said, week in and week out, amazing broadcast. Got to thank Alex for the paint scheme from Kill Switch Designs. I know last week was special, but this week is just as special. Same paint scheme, same thing. So obviously still thinking of all the women out there, and hopefully we can maybe get one more in this paint scheme before the end of the month.
All right, well, thanks for talking to us, Josh. Congrats on adding yet another win to your season total. We'll see you next week in Martinsville.
Thank you.
All right, and that is just about going to wrap up our coverage here tonight at Homestead. First off, I want to thank everybody for coming out. It was a fun race to watch. And Joshua Watson goes home with the win. We will be back next week for the final race before the Championship 4 in the FastTrack Sim Racing Cup Series, presented by the Alloy Wheel Repair Specialist. Tomorrow night, Tuesday Night Thunder for RMR. Make sure you tune in. Until then, hope you all have a good night.